I don't think Donald Trump actually wants to cause a lot of issues for Prince Charles and Prince William, and he knows that deporting Prince Harry would leave Prince Harry on the doorstep of Charles and William, and I don't think Trump wants to do that, even though there's certainly no love lost between Trump and Harry, and particularly Trump and Meghan Markle, who had campaigned against Donald Trump for years and years and years.
Hello and welcome to the Money Magpie Invest podcast. I'm Jasmine Birtles, the owner and founder of Money Magpie, and today I am joined by a very special guest, my lovely friend Dan Wootton, who is the presenter of the wildly popular podcast Outspoken. It really is. It's one of the most popular on YouTube. He's also former presenter on GB News and the former executive editor of The Sun. Dan, thank you so much for taking time to join me.
Oh no, I'm so excited to be here. I love Money Magpie, Jasmine, as you know, and usually you're appearing on Outspoken.
Yes.
It's so lovely to be able to return the favour and be on your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Well, I wanted to bring you on because I keep trying not to think about it, but we have the whole sort of Harry and Meghan stuff pushed in our faces constantly, including the cost to the taxpayer. So what is it, Dan, that Harry particularly and Meghan are asking for from the taxpayer now? Because I thought they'd gone. I thought that was it. We didn't have to pay for them anymore.
Well, absolutely. And this is what's so fascinating, because remember when Megxit happened and when the Sandringham Summit was signed, and remember it was Queen Elizabeth II who was very much behind that and was clear that there was not going to be a half in, half out deal. It was made abundantly clear to Prince Harry, if you leave the royal family, if you want to go and become self-sufficient, which is what they claimed it was all about, finding freedom, earning their own money, then you were going to lose your taxpayer-funded security. And that's why, Jasmine, for so many years and months before Megxit, the royal family had been desperate to try and find a compromise solution. So I remember reporting there were discussions about, could they go to South Africa for 6 months of the year? What about Botswana? Could Harry become the Governor General of Australia? What about Canada? Because they knew that security would end up becoming a big deal, because, of course, only serving members of the royal family, working members of the royal family, receive security protection. And by the way, for some of them, it's not even full-time, Jasmine. So Princess Anne doesn't receive full-time security. Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie don't. There's been a big push to remove Prince Andrew of his security. But Harry has made this his cause célèbre, the most important thing in his life. When he gave in to the battle with Murdoch, all of a sudden it became this battle with the British government over security. And effectively what he's asking is for the British taxpayer to pay. And that opens up so many doors, by the way, because if all of a sudden we're having to pay for rich individuals, Jasmine, well, what about Mark Zuckerberg when he comes to the United Kingdom? What about Elon Musk? Now, how it works at the moment is that Prince Harry has to apply to a body called RAVIC if he's entering the country, and they decide on a case-by-case basis whether there's a security threat, whether he's here for anything official. But the royal family have bent over backwards. I mean, they've even offered him lodgings in Buckingham Palace, which means he would be covered by security. And remember, for that first year, where it was that transitional period between Megxit, Charles actually paid for Harry's security costs at that point. Now, there's a lot of debate over how much that was, because, of course, the royal family and the British government don't declare security costs because it's something which they consider is connected to the security of the nation. But it looks like Charles paid at least $3 million or £5 million to cover Harry's security over that period of time. At the end of that period, Jasmine, why should he be paying when all of a sudden Harry and Meghan have deals from Spotify and Netflix and all of these other corporates to the tune of well over $100 million? Just act like any other high-profile person. You've got your freedom. Now you pay for your own security. End of story.
It's amazing, the way you describe it, it's amazing that Harry's still banging on about it. Do you think they're not making the money that they should be making, they thought they'd be making? I mean, as you say, you've got a Spotify deal, they've got Netflix deal. Meghan's got her own business. I've forgotten what it's called, but it's somebody else. I'd say, yeah, okay. And surely, with all of that, they're being handed stuff on a plate. Are they not making the millions that they should be making? Is that the problem?
Well, as ever, Jasmine, it has gone spectacularly wrong on every front, because the problem with Harry and Meghan, they want to make the big bucks, but they're not hard workers. Indeed, they're very, very lazy, very entitled. The Spotify deal, they lost it. And Bill Simmons, who's the big boss of podcasts at Spotify, very respected guy, he actually went public and described them as effing grifters. So that deal has turned to rubbish. Then there's the Netflix deal, which Meghan will renew without Harry. But the idea that it's going to be anywhere near worth the 100 million when they have delivered really no big hits, nothing sustainable, is for the birds. And Meghan is not a good businesswoman. This is the problem. So as ever, sold out, right? We're told within 45 minutes. Well, my belief is that there was such a tiny amount of stock available because it's a PR stunt. Do you see what I mean? You can put 45 cans of tins of jam on sale, and if they sell out within 45 minutes, it looks very good, doesn't it? But we're 2 months on, Jasmine. You know all about business. They haven't restocked. So actually, it's an astonishing business failure. They have not delivered for Netflix. They have not delivered for Spotify, hence why they were dumped. Of course, there's going to be ad hoc deals, which they pick up along the way. So Harry is the chief inspiration officer, whatever that means, for Better Up, which is a sort of woke HR company. So there's lots of money that comes in for various different things. He's on a celebrity speaking website now, touting him out for about $500,000 a speech. But the point is, no, they are concerned about money. Those big deals that they thought would provide them with a billionaire lifestyle are no longer there. Meghan, though, does believe that she can do it. She is wanting to follow the Kardashian model. She believes she'll be a billionaire, but right now, she's having to fly on American Airlines planes rather than private jets, which does tell you a little something. However, when it comes to the security, I don't actually think it is about the money. This is about entitlement, and it's about Harry believing that he has a birthright to this security, despite the fact that not only has he just turned on the royal family, he's trashed the British monarchy, he's trashed the country, and no one particularly wants to bend over backwards. At the same time, Jasmine, of course, no one wants to see him be unsafe, but as I say, the process is really clear. Like, if there's a threat to him, he will apply and he will receive the security that is appropriate at the time.
One thing I don't understand, and I was talking to a friend about this last week, and neither of us could get it, that why Meghan and Harry left in the first place, in a sense, because, I mean, Meghan was a sort of an okay actress. She was doing all right, probably would have another couple of years left, not that much. She was a princess. It's what, children, little girls around the world think, I want to be a princess. She was a princess. Couldn't she have stayed and used that brand, built up that brand to sell stuff in America and build up businesses there? Would she have been stopped from doing that?
Yeah, so that's what she thought she was going to be able to do. And she did actually start trying to get these deals while she was a member of the royal family. So she had a team in America, a business development team, who had previously managed her. And I actually revealed that they were still working for her. They were looking for book deals, that type of thing. But it's not the dumb thing. It would have caused huge reputational issues for the royal family because you understand, Jasmine, if you are a working member of the royal family, the whole thing is you are raising money for others. The whole point is that, yes, we pay, as British taxpayers, we pay for your relatively extravagant lifestyle, though it's not a billionaire's lifestyle. And, we can talk more about that, but Meghan was never happy about that. But we pay for that so that you are free. You are unshackled. You're not like the rest of us. You're not having to worry about paying for a roof over your head or paying the mortgage or paying the rent. And what comes from that is that you get to devote all your time to the causes that matter to you. And that is a great privilege. And actually, we've just seen last week Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, being named in the Time 100 for their philanthropic pursuits. Now, that's particularly mortifying for Meghan Markle, given she turned up at the Time 100 summit to speak. But the thing is, Jasmine, William and Catherine have done a lot. They've done a huge amount behind the scenes, publicly, and are trying to change the game when it comes to charity work. Harry and Meghan have admitted in their accounts for Archwell, which is their charitable foundation, that they only work 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week for the charitable foundation. And you can tell they're hardly bringing any money in. It's really not a game changer at all. All of this big talk about wanting to change the world when they moved to America was just poppycock. So at the end of the day, I think the reason Meghan wanted to leave is because she did think that she was going to be able to make the big bucks in America. But of course, in hindsight, I would argue that was a massive mistake. They had a huge opportunity, the biggest platform in the world. If they genuinely wanted to change the world, the way to do it was from within the British royal family. But that was never what it was about. Meghan wanted to be a billionaire and she wanted to be treated like an A-list celebrity, not a member of the royal family who, remember, it's a very nice lifestyle. I'm sure it's a lifestyle, Jasmine, that you and I would love a lot of aspects of, but you are expected to work, you are expected to serve, and you don't always necessarily live in the most extravagant conditions.
Absolutely. And we'll come back to the royal family and how much they do and how much they're worth to us. But I just want to touch on these charities, because I have a bit of a thing about charities. There are very, very few. I could count them on two hands, the number of charities that I frankly approve of, because I think that a lot of them are just sort of spreading money on all sorts of nonsense. What are you seeing with the money that's going in and out?
Well, there are huge questions about the Archwell Foundation. I mean, there's currently an investigation underway in the US about why Archwell donated $250,000 to the daughter of Joe Biden and Jill Biden. I think it's Ashley Biden. So why on earth was Archwell putting the money into that? That feels like, to me, attempting to use your charity foundation to try and buy political influence. And we know, obviously, they were big supporters of Joe Biden because they hate Donald Trump and they don't want Donald Trump to be looking into Harry's visa issues and whether he lied about drug use and everything when he was entering the United States. So that's Archwell. There's also a whole load of questions, Jasmine, about, and we've still not got to the bottom of this, about whether Oprah Winfrey donated millions and millions of dollars in exchange for that interview on CBS. Do you remember when Harry and Meghan made all of those false claims about the British royal family being racist and there being a royal racist and all of that? The suggestion is that Oprah Winfrey donated a massive lump sum to Archwell. So yes, I think Archwell needs to be looked at, although it is effectively dormant these days. It takes in so little money because Harry and Meghan want to make money for themselves. They're not donating a portion of most of their profits to Archwell. So that's the first thing. But then there are actually bigger questions, Jasmine, when it comes to Harry's two African charities sent to Bali, where there is a massive row going on with the chairman of the board, Dr. Sophie Chandoka, who was horrified when she came in and has made a whole load of accusations about how that charity was running. Many of them came down to Prince Harry, and the fact that actually Prince Harry's appalling behavior since he left the royal family has actually caused huge issues for that charity, because all of a sudden a whole load of donors have said, well, I don't want to be involved with this guy who's telling lies about the royal families. You've got that issue. And then there's another charity, his other main African charity, African Parks, where he's now on the board. There are massive questions in terms of human rights violations and the appalling treatment of the people who that charity was meant to be representing. So again, what my argument would be is that, and believe me, a lot of people were warning Harry about this at the time, is that he's quite a stupid guy, he's quite a simple guy, and actually he was protected, Jasmine, for so many years by the people within the royal institution who now he's turned on and said, oh, these are the men in grey suits, they're so horrible to us, they didn't want us. But actually, no, they protected you for so many years. Since you've left, Archwell seems to be doing absolutely nothing apart from making these political donations to the likes of Biden and taking in money from Oprah Winfrey. And your two African charities, Send Bali and African Parks, are in absolute chaos. That's a disaster. The only charity at this point which seems to have remained relatively unscathed is the Invictus Games.
It's extraordinary. And there's one thing you've just mentioned about Harry and wondering if he can get his visa, as it were, for America. And as you say, he's not that bright, because even in his actual book, he went, "Oh yeah, and I took lots of drugs." Does that mean that he's not going to be let in, do you think, ultimately?
Well, I don't think Donald Trump actually wants to cause a lot of issues for Prince Charles and Prince William, and he knows that deporting Prince Harry would leave Prince Harry on the doorstep of Charles and William, and I don't think Trump wants to do that, even though there's certainly no love lost between Trump and Harry, and particularly Trump and Meghan Markle, who had campaigned against Donald Trump for years and years and years. But the Heritage Foundation, which is a brilliant Washington think tank, is campaigning for Harry's visa records to be released. Niall Gardner, who's one of the directors at the Heritage Foundation, a brilliant man, a British man, is doing huge amounts of work on this, has campaigned on this for some time. Of course, there should be transparency. Of course, there shouldn't be special treatment. And the point is, why should we not see the documentation? So but the problem is, we know why Harry doesn't want the documentation to be seen, because because neither scenario is good for him, Jasmine. Because either he lied on his visa documentation, or he lied in his book, or he received special treatment. So either of those scenarios is not a good one for Prince Harry. But Donald Trump, in the end, has said that he will not deport Prince Harry. So fundamentally, I think he will end up receiving special treatment there.
It sounds though that if he was deported, it would, I mean, you were mentioning at the beginning that he could go and run Canada. He could go and work in Canada or Australia, or he could go to Botswana. There are all sorts of places where he could go and do a job. I mean, would that be a good thing if he could be forced to go and do something where he actually does have to do some actual work?
I think it's too little too late now. I really do. No one within the royal family or the royal organisations, the institution of the monarchy, would ever trust Prince Harry with a serious role. So, I mean, goodness me, if the divorce long anticipated between him and Meghan Markle at some points goes through and Harry returns cap in hand, having apologised and admitted that he was manipulated, then maybe. But I think fundamentally, Jasmine, it is too little too late. Now, Harry is going to have to stand on his own 2 feet. He's never going to be short of cash. Remember, he did receive a big inheritance from Diana and from the Queen Mother. But the issue is the outlay. So what Harry is going to have to realise quite quickly is, I can live a very comfortable lifestyle, a millionaire lifestyle. I probably can't live a billionaire lifestyle unless the likes of Elton John is still going to be paying for me to use their private jet. And eventually, all of that sort of generosity runs out, doesn't it? So I think he will be able to sustain a lifestyle on, people are always going to be prepared to pay Prince Harry for something. There's always going to be some sort of commercial demand. You'll almost want to buy into the British royal family, which is why the late Queen was so concerned about what Harry was going to do. But those heady days of like $100 million deals, they are over. So they are going to have to significantly cut back their outlays.
I just want to come back to the point that you made earlier on about the royal family working for others, serving essentially, and what they are potentially worth. I saw in Brand Finance that they worked out that the royal family as a whole costs us, the taxpayers, about £500 million, £500 million, but they bring in £2.5 billion. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, this has always been something where sometimes the figures are very hard to pin down, because There was another estimate recently that they're worth £1.7 billion to the UK economy. But I think what is absolutely undoubtable is that the royal family pays for itself. Now, of course, there are debates within the royal family itself and amongst monarchists, amongst people like me, who actually think that Charles and William are wanting to slim down the monarchy too much, sort of creating a monarchy that is based around in the future William and Catherine's nuclear family, which is the plan, so George, Louis and Charlotte, is actually too limiting. Like, people like these more minor royals and like the fact that Princess Anne and Prince Edward and Sophie have roles. So that's going to be a debate in the future, because can the monarchy justify their overheads if they are such a slimmed down family? But obviously that is the way that lots of European monarchies have gone. But European monarchies, let's be honest, they just don't have the star power of our monarchy, which is the monarchy. It is the monarchy that is followed and talked about and beloved all across the world. But Charles's big fear is Harry returning to the United Kingdom one day, cap in hand, asking for money. Money does drive a lot of these conversations. Like, look at all of the recent battles between King Charles and his brother, Prince Andrew, who, as it stands, remains cancelled effectively because of accusations against him, which he insists are false. And we won't go into all of them. I have my own views, and it's a big debate. But the point is that the clash between Andrew and Charles is not so much over those allegations. People believe within the royal family that Andrew is innocent and that he has been set up. But the clashes are to do with money, because it's all well and good living in Royal Lodge, which is this massive property that Prince Andrew owns within the Windsor estate. Previously, it was the home of the Queen Mother. But it's, of course, a massive cost to upkeep the property every single year. And Andrew is now determined to stay because he is allowed to stay. That was the agreement that was made with the late Queen. It was a long-term lease agreement, I think, of something like 65 years, and Andrew has fully paid for that. But it's about how he pays for the maintenance of Royal Lodge, and so he is going to be privately funded to do that. Well, now, of course, there's a whole load of stories circulating in the likes of the Daily Mail about the fact that he's been privately funded by dodgy characters, and it's a bit like, well, what do you want? What do you want? You either pay for Andrew out of the public purse, no one wants that, or you allow him to take this private funding. So there are a whole load of issues, because William, of course, is now responsible for the Duchy of Cornwall. That whole estate passes to him the moment he became the Prince of Wales. Now, he has a huge amount of money to play with there, and he no longer has to fund his brother out of that. Whereas Charles was funding, when he was Prince of Wales, not only his own lifestyle, but also the lifestyle of William and Harry. But of course, in the future, William will be expected to fund the lives and the work of Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. Although, of course, even with Charlotte and Louis, who are the two youngest children of the Waleses, there are question marks about, well, actually, will they go into full-time work or full-time royal work? Or will they be given the opportunity to go and live a private life, to earn money themselves? And actually, that's a decision that might come down to them. So you can see none of this is straightforward. None of it is simple, especially when there's a whole load of palaces that are owned either by the royal family as an institution or privately, like Sandringham, for example, which is owned privately. But Buckingham Palace at the moment is vacant. It's not lived in by any members of the royal family. So there are going to be big questions over the years to come about, well, do we turn Buckingham Palace into a museum? I mean, it is open for certain parts of the year, but does it become effectively a cash cow for the royal family that is only used in ceremonial moments? But all of those questions, and what I guess this is where they're such a unique family, aren't they, Jasmine? All of those questions involve humans and personalities, and it's none of these issues are completely straightforward.
No, very much not. We started with Megxit, we started with Harry and Meghan, But then we look at the whole royal family, and as you say, it's very complicated, and it depends on how Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis feel. You know, if I were them, I'd probably say, I'll go and do my own thing, thank you very much. But there's a lot to be said for being paid to go, hello, yes, I'll open this, whatever it is. Hello. Some people like that. So do you see a future for the royal family? You don't see it imploding. You see that there is a future.
I absolutely do still see a future for the royal family. I mean, if you look at polling, you know, who has plummeted in the polls? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They wanted to destroy the reputation of the royal family. What they did is destroy their own reputation, Jasmine. Now, of course, amongst younger generations, there are going to be question marks, thus certainly not as popular. But of course, does the UK really want to go down the path of an elected president? That brings up a whole load of its own issues. Would we end up with President Tony Blair, for example, or President Gary Lineker? Does anyone really want that? You see, so I think at this point, especially if William and Catherine and their children form the backbone of the monarchy for the next 2 generations, I personally think it will survive and it will stay strong. I mean, even in Australia, which has had a strong conversation about becoming a republic for decades now, and there was even a referendum back in the late 90s, they still haven't gone down the path because actually the question of what is the alternative becomes so prominent. And Jasmine, we know through all of our other political conversations, don't we, over the past 5 years, that actually politicians are not to be trusted. And look, is a royal family perfect? Of course it's not. Do a whole load of our viewers have concerns about King Charles's links, for example, to the World Economic Forum and the Net Zero debate? Of course we do. But fundamentally, is it a system that has stood the test of time because broadly the royal family stays out of politics and broadly it allows our Westminster system to thrive? I would argue yes. So for anyone that is going to be in the years to come putting forth the concept of an alternative to the monarchy, I think that's when actually British people will really wake up and think, goodness me, do we want this? But look at the approval ratings of the likes of Prince William, right? I mean, politicians can only dream of having approval ratings that high, especially, by the way, after being in the public eye for decades and decades.
Absolutely. Dan, that's absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. Thank you, because it's it's an important issue for taxpayers to know that their money is actually, you know, being invested and it's getting money back. And it does sound that at the moment, at least, that the royal family is more than paying its way, which is...
I really think it is. It is.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dan. This has been Dan Wootton, the host of the brilliantly popular Outspoken podcast. You can see it on YouTube all over. It's massive in America. It's massive in Britain, which is amazing because it's only been going for a year, hasn't it, Dan?
Yes, even less than a year, actually. But Jasmine, thanks to people like you who are my brilliant superstar panelists. So please come back soon.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go wherever you are.